Let's do it. Another edition of The Script, a podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. His real name is Cardale Jones. His nickname is Beanie Wells. My name, as always, is Dave Holmes. Make sure you follow us on social at The Script OSU on all platforms, and hit us up on YouTube. Subscribe right now if you're watching the video version. It's highly recommended because you see the shoes. I mean, let's check out the shoes right now. You guys both went like orange shoes. You got a vibe over there.
A little bit, a little pink and orange.
A little dunks here, man, but ain't nothing like that scarlet and gray.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm rocking. A little scarlet and gray here. All right, so the shoe game is strong, and the Buckeyes were as well with that big 70-0 win over Grambling. Let's start at the top, and that's the quarterback, Cardale. So you have Julian Sayin, 16 straight completions to open the game. That's a new school record for the beginning of a game. Finishes 18 of 19, 306, and he threw for an Abe Lincoln, 4 scores. All right, so Ryan Day lets him air it out. Your thoughts on Julian Sayin, and everything's going to have the, yeah, it's Grambling underneath it, but still a good game nonetheless.
Yeah, for sure. This is the type of game you want to allow young players to start building that confidence. I know we're going to get into a little bit later with Bo Jackson, the things he was able to do and the flashes he was able to show. But for Julian, yeah, I mean, you go out there and throw the ball around. You know, go out there and build up some confidence, get some rapport with some of those receivers, and feel good going against someone that's not, you know, the guys you're going against every day. Now, don't get me wrong. Is Grambling the guys that they're going to see for the rest of the season? Probably not.
Too bad.
Yeah.
It'd be fun. It'd be fun.
Well, yeah, 70-0 wins the rest of the season. I'll take that any day of the week. But it was good for him to, like I said, to start to build up that confidence and build that rapport with those receivers. And look forward to next week.
You know, Beanie, I said we saw the spring game back in April. This almost felt like the fall game to me. It was almost like a chance for Ryan just to see what he had and play with the toys out.
Yeah, man, I think you want that too. I mean, obviously, you know, you want to see your guys go out and be successful, no matter who it's against. But nonetheless, you want to see what you have in certain players. And I think Ryan Day got an opportunity to do that. Not only Julian Sayin got a chance to, you know, play big, but other players on the defensive side got a chance to play big. Like we talked about in the run game, we got to see another young running back, 2 young running backs, Isaiah West as well. But yeah, well, that's what you want out of these games. You want to go out and win decisively, and then you want to see what you have in other players. Who can make plays? Who do you see giving max effort no matter who it's against? One of the kids that I coached in high school, Jake Cook, he played at Westerville North. I coached him for 2 years in high school. Got a chance to see him out there. He showed up at practice yesterday, so I got a chance to congratulate him on getting some game time opportunity and playing. And, you know, I'm so proud of that kid. And he was excited about it. And he's like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to play every week, but nonetheless, this was an opportunity for me to get out there and show what I can do.
Yeah, that's kind of underrated, Cardale, because you were a guy who wasn't sure how much you'd see the field. Now, of course, you end up seeing it with the brightest lights in them all. You didn't know it was going to play out that way. But for some of these guys, they might get 6, 12, 18 snaps their whole career, and it might be in a game like this.
For sure. And I remember being in those situations where at mop-up duty, fun fact, that's the second most points Ohio State has ever scored in a shutout at home. And the most is the team I was a part of, the first game I ever played against FAMU in 2013. And I remember when I scored that touchdown, man, it was my Super Bowl at the time. And getting in the game with like so many guys I was on scout team with and so many walk-ons and stuff. And just being in those moments with those guys, it's pretty cool. Because ultimately, like for the coaches as well, you start to see some of those young guys develop because you're going to have depth when you get deep into the season, as we saw last year and really pretty much all throughout college football season. The depth is going to be the key as you try to make this run into this new 12-team playoff system.
I know Beanie had his eye on the running backs. All right, so here's the good news. The running game was much better, 7.2 per carry. You would expect that as opposed to the 2.3 per carry they had against Texas. All right, so C.J. Donaldson ran well. James Peoples ran well. They were both north of 7 yards a carry, but one guy, Bo Jackson, went 9 for 108, Beanie. And again, the asterisk against Grambling. I get it, but is it just me, or is at some point Bo Jackson going to have meaningful carries against opponents that matter this year?
Absolutely. I think he will. I think at the running back position, that's still one position that translates no matter who you're playing against, in my opinion, because a lot of it is reading and reacting. You can see how a player's vision is. You can see what pop and power that they run with. And I think we got a chance to see that with Bo Jackson. And you can compare it to the other guys, how they did in that particular football game. He's a guy that I believe we're going to have to get involved because he looked explosive. And not to say that the other guys aren't, but we haven't seen those explosive gains on a consistent basis like we want out of the running game. So why not, throw a young guy in there and see what it can give you in meaningful time and meaningful action that's going to mean something down the stretch. I think he'll be just fine, again, because I believe that's the one position that translates no matter who's out there.
I remember when you were in Northeast Ohio, and I was living in Northeast Ohio, and I remember going to one of your playoff games, I believe, and you ran for hundreds of yards. And we knew the name Beanie Wells. You come in, you're not top of the depth chart right away, but we can see flashes. Then the Michigan game comes, and you break. Is it a 52-yard touchdown?
Yeah, yep.
52-yard touchdown against Michigan. That's when you're on the map. All season, do you know that moment is coming? Because like I sense it with Bo Jackson. It might not be Michigan, maybe it'll be Illinois, but you almost do you sense it as a player that like my time at some point will be happening this year?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, one of the things that Tress did a good job with is keeping young guys that they believe can play in it mentally, and whether that's giving you meaningful time in the second quarter for a series or two here, or there in the third or fourth quarter. But he keeps you in it mentally, so one, you're progressing on the football field, and you're getting that live game time experience, and he's getting a chance to evaluate you. But then that, hey, this is real. This is real life for me, especially as you get more comfortable, you start to make plays, and you start to get a feel for college football and what it's going to be like. Hey, my opportunity is coming, and coach showing faith in you. I had a fumbling issue my freshman year. Fumbled in some big games, Illinois being one of them. And, I just knew down the stretch he wasn't going to go to me. But Tress was a guy that wanted to instill the confidence in me, so he kept putting me out there. And I think that's what it takes for young guys to get comfortable and to have confidence. If you have that, you're going to be just fine.
And Cardale, from a quarterback standpoint, we saw Julian Sayin 18 of 19. Chemistry in a game like this. I mean, a chance to really air it out with some of these guys because you got to remember, he's still a first-year starting quarterback. Now, he's done a lot of reps in practice over the past couple of years, but still, I would think that would be something key in a game like this.
You know what? No, I'm going to actually backtrack. I don't think he got a lot of reps in practice the last couple of years.
Well, that's true.
With getting ready for Will Howard and then going through a quarterback battle, so you're splitting a lot of those reps. Maybe he was getting 60-40, but he's still at a point where the reps, it's needed, right? So going into this game and dropping back and throwing the ball 19 times, those are things that is going to keep needing to happen to continue to build his confidence and really get him comfortable with the college level of playing football. I think OU will be a great test for him. I think this is a good team. This is not the traditional OU team that we've seen over the last couple of years. And Ohio State going to play them, and we're going to get into that a little bit after in the show. But games like this is much needed for young players to still also, not just for the players, but for the coaches to see ultimately what the heck they got going on to the season.
Okay, so let's move on to OU. That's a good segue there. So the Buckeyes have beaten Ohio schools 53 straight times. You have to go back to Oberlin in 1921. They beat the Buckeyes. That game wasn't even at the shoe. It was at a place called Ohio Field. I think there's a parking garage there now. And Oberlin was angry that year because 5 years earlier in 1916, the Buckeyes hung 128 points on it. They beat them 128-0. So you had a revenge game for Oberlin. We don't think that's going to happen this year against OU. But what Cardale said is a good point here. This is not your mama's MAC team here, Beanie. This team went 11-3 last year. They dominated Miami. They beat them 38-3 in the MAC title game. They went on to win a bowl game. So where do you come down on as far as this not being as easy of an Ohio opponent as you would typically get in the shoe?
Yeah, like you just mentioned, they won a lot of big games. Last week, they were coming off of an emotional high, beating West Virginia, and a tough matchup. And when you go back and you look at their week one matchup versus Rutgers, they very well should have beaten them, and that was a 3-point game. And I know none of those schools are the same caliber of which Ohio State is, but this is an opponent you can take lightly. And I think that's going to be the echoes of Ryan Day and that coaching staff going into that locker room is you can't take OU lightly because they're a team that's going to play hard, that's going to be disciplined, and they're getting good quarterback play out of their quarterback Navarro right now. So when all apples to apples, this is an Ohio team that's going to come in wanting to knock you off your block. And you have to be prepared for that because nobody wants to be looked at as little brother. And even when you are a little brother, at some point in time, you say, I got a little stronger, big bro. Cardale was just telling the story. You tell the story about how you got a little bit stronger when you first went to college.
Yeah, exactly. You come back. Exactly. You come back and you start to test your big brothers. Like, yeah, and look at me now. And no, Beanie made a great point in Navarre. This OU team will be the best. Navarre is the best quarterback that Ohio State has faced in the first 3 weeks. Not saying potentially, not saying what we think he's going to be because we know they played against Arch Manning, but far as production, far as experience, far as the weapons around him, and the things he's able to do and the freedom he has at the line of scrimmage with this OU team. This will be Ohio State's biggest test at the quarterback position in the consistent play we've seen for the last 2 weeks. OU has been neck and neck with the MAC. I mean, 2 years ago, they lost in the MAC championship. Last year, they won it. Big bowl game win, and then Beanie just said big win over West Virginia last week, and then should have beat Rutgers. Yeah, this is not your typical OU team.
Mm-hmm.
Do I expect Ohio State to win this game? Of course, but the traditional 50 to 12 and 13 game, I don't see that this year in this team, in this matchup. But this is going to be a good matchup for Ohio State to start the segue right into the Big Ten play.
Yeah, our friends at Prime Sportsbook opened the line at about 35, and then it's been falling. A lot of people are going in on the Bobcats thinking they're going to keep it close. They're a little scrappy. You know, I want to talk big picture philosophy here, Beanie. So you played 7 games in 3 years against Ohio schools. Tressel loved playing Ohio schools, and it makes sense given that he came from Youngstown State. Urban's tenure, not as much, Cardale. You played, I believe, 3 games in 4 years against Ohio schools. So I'll give both your answers. Beanie, start with you. The mindset when they come to town, because a lot of coaches hate these games because 2 things can happen. You win and nobody cares because you're supposed to,
right,
or you lose and it is a catastrophic shift within your state that people freak about. So
right.
What did you think when you played all those games against Ohio schools?
Well, you know, it's to me, it's just another football game. You know, it's just another game, and you line up and you try to, give it your all, and you try to dominate the opponent in front of you. I know from the opposite side, those guys are a little bit hungrier and chippier because sometimes, or more than likely, a lot of those rosters are loaded with guys from the state of Ohio. So for whatever reason, not for whatever reason, I mean, those kids feel like they could have played at Ohio State. They feel like they should have been recruited to Ohio State. So they're playing with a chip on their shoulder. So during those games, you got guys talking crazy mess the entire time. I'm like, bro, relax, man. You got a scholarship too, so be happy about that. But no, these guys feel like they should be at Ohio State. And I know a lot of them growing up in the state want to be here. So, you know, sometimes you got to put them in their place a little bit at times as a Buckeye. And you got to play a little bit harder and kind of show them that, hey, no, we're not in the same class. But going back to 2007, you know, we got in a dogfight with Akron. I think we, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say we went down 2-0 at halftime to Akron. They got a safety just before half, and we only ended up winning that game 20-2. So it was a close battle nonetheless. And, you know, they came to play. They brought their hard-hand lunch pails, and, you know, we didn't shut them up like we wanted to.
Yeah, you look at this past week with Florida and South Florida, where those 2 teams, where both teams have locker rooms filled with Florida kids or kids that played against each other in high school. So you already know, like Beanie said, you know, those coaches are probably saying, you know, hey, South Florida didn't want you. You know what I'm saying? These guys, you know, I'm saying to my guys in the locker room, these guys didn't want you. And then on the other side, you know, Napier and the Florida part tell them, hey, these guys probably think they should be here, show them why they shouldn't. But South Florida show like, hey, we run in Florida right now.
Right.
Hopefully we don't have that type of situation here in Columbus, Ohio, here in about 4 or 5 days. And Beanie is right. A lot of these guys have played against some of these guys from Ohio on Ohio State roster. And it is going to be that feeling of like, you know, I grew up with this being my dream school, you know, and for whatever reason, I wasn't able to get here. I remember playing against Kent State, and then we had a few guys from Ohio State who transferred to Kent because of different situations and things like that. And playing against those guys, it was so much chirping back and forth, and we put a pretty good whooping on them. But from the beginning to the end, it was nonstop talk because, you know, these guys ultimately want what you have at Ohio State.
Well, you brought up Kent State. I'm a Kent State Golden Flash alum.
I keep forgetting.
So if you want to know, you guys both beat Kent State once by a combined score of 114-3.
Ooh.
What are you guys doing to my
I had Julian Edelman at quarterback, though, one year.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I remember that.
No, don't get me started on the talent that went through Kent State and somehow didn't win football games. James Harrison, a 2-time NFL Defensive Player of the Year. Edelman went through. Josh Cribbs went through. Antonio Gates played basketball, and now he's in the Hall of Fame in football. Anyway, let's get off the flashes. Let's get back to OU here. So Will Kazmarek going against his old team. Cardale just mentioned it. This is becoming a thing, though, Beanie. In the transfer portal era, we're going to see so many more of these matches. So what is Will Kazmarek going to expect? Is he going to get, you know, little after the whistle action from the guys from OU? What do you think? How do they greet him?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They're going to be looking at him as a traitor. You know, you switch sides, although it's, you know, for the better nonetheless. They're going to be looking at him and trying to get some big hits on him nonetheless. I mean, anytime you're going to get somebody, you know, somebody that, you know, left your side and went to the dark side, quote unquote, you know, you want to show them why they should have stayed. So you're going to do something after the whistle without question, whether that's a nudge under the pile or, you know, an elbow or anything, it's coming.
Yeah, he did what every single person on OU's team would have done, Cardale, which is gone to Ohio State. But still, I bet they're going to give him something this week.
100%. And I'm having a brain fart on them players from Alabama who transferred to Florida State. And in that first game of the season when they played, and he was out there playing with his hair on fire. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, why did he leave Alabama?
Right.
You know, and especially coming off the year Florida State had. And it was like, you can tell he was out there playing like, I told y'all should have played me. I'm gonna show y'all what y'all missing.
Right.
You know, so hopefully Will can show OU clearly what they're missing and not the other way around where OU kind of just manhandle them a little bit. So we'll see.
Yeah, first game under the lights this year at the Shoe this Saturday. The Buckeyes hosting Ohio University. The Bobcats coming to town. Okay, let's switch just quickly here. I want to talk about Michigan because they lose to Oklahoma. And Bryce Underwood looked every bit of a freshman in various ways there. He looked a little overmatched. And that's a tough environment to go down there to Norman when you're a true freshman. But we want to have our Buckeye Basement Solution here, okay? So if you need anything with your basement, I'm talking crack repair, waterproof, prevention, they've got you covered at Buckeye Basement Solutions. And we try to come up with solutions for things here on the show in the world of college football. So, Cardale, when you look at Bryce Underwood, I think at this point, Sharon Moore's committed to him. Once you made that call, you've got to ride him out for at least half the season here. They're not going to get away from him at this point. What is your solution, though, to help him look like more of a sophomore and a junior compared to what they looked like against Oklahoma?
First and foremost, you got to get him comfortable. And I'm not talking about comfortable versus New Mexico, comfortable in these environments like this. Michigan, the reason why I took the under weeks ago on our show about their schedule, because they came out with starting Bryce Underwood, and then the lack of playmakers around him outside the running game. So you're going to put a lot on his shoulders early on as a quarterback, and you see what they're trying to do with OU, and he was just out of sync from beginning to the end, and then not putting him in great positions. I mean, he's ended up in third and long, probably 40, 50, maybe 60% of their third down conversions was third and long. And then on top of that, trying to figure out what he do well outside of just being a great talent, right? Is it taking shots downfield? Is it the RPO game? Is it the quick game? What is it? And I still don't know that answer yet. And I don't think they know that answer. That's why I think we were so shocked with going with Bryce Underwood as a starting quarterback over Mikey King, because you know what this kid has. He's played a lot of football. He's a fifth-year senior, and you saw him live up close and personal a year before at Fresno State, coming into the big house and really playing a really good game. You know, they had a few more playmakers around him. That game could have been a lot closer than it really was. So I think that's the biggest thing, really getting him comfortable within the system and really putting him in a position for success rather than, you know, throw left, throw right. Okay, 3rd and 11. Hey, go out there and make a play.
Right.
That's not good for a freshman quarterback.
And Beanie, as an older guy on the team, if you're a junior or a senior, and you see that my final season is tied to a teenage kid who looks like he's not quite ready, and Bryce Underwood, by the way, I want to be clear, I think he's going to be really, really good. I mean, this is the second start here. But if you're an older guy in that team, how do you feel in this moment? Do you feel like you want to make the switch, or are you going to ride him like the coaches?
Well, obviously you have to ride with whatever the coaches go, but we were in a situation back in 2008. We got a quarterback by the name of Terrell Pryor. We had some veteran receivers in Brian Hartline, Brian Wabisky, and we made a switch a couple of games into the season, and it didn't go over well in the locker room, to be quite honest. They didn't like that switch because now we're talking about going from a drop back passer to athletic quarterback, to where your balls aren't going to be as accurate. You're not going to catch as many balls. You're not going to get the downfield throws on a consistent basis. So it kind of disrupted, you know, what the receivers' plans that they have for their season and kind of the football team essentially. So if I'm an older guy, I'm looking at it from that standpoint. How much is this going to disrupt the chemistry that we have? Now, on the flip side for Michigan, both of these guys were going to be new quarterbacks either way.
That's true.
But I think they don't have the playmakers to make him comfortable out the gate. But nonetheless, if I'm guys on that locker room, I probably want a more veteran quarterback, to be honest.
For sure, because if I'm an older guy in his locker room right now, you know, going with Bryce Underwood over Mikey King, I'm just to me it's showing that I'm saying screw this year,
right?
As a coaching staff, and I'm just like, hold on, wait a minute now. Are we going with a guy that's going to help us win games this year, or are you going with a guy to keep him happy because you're scared he's going to be in the portal next year or the end of the season because he didn't start? Like, what is the or he's on the field because how much money he got paid? So you still have those type of questions that naturally is going to come up if I'm an older player, because I'm not saying screw my year, and I'm already on record on the show saying I think Michigan's going to be really good next year, and mainly because of Bryce Underwood and going into his second year. I didn't think he'd be going to his second year starting. I thought he'd be going into the second year just in a program, developing that leadership characteristics, developing that chemistry with the guys that's also young in this program. But this year definitely seems like they're saying, hey, you know, I wouldn't say it's a wash, but We just using this year to give them experience versus we want to compete at a high level this year.
Right. Yeah, no, we said the day that they made him the starter, we were on the show, we said it almost felt like a 2-year plan had begun. It was almost like the coaching staff was saying, we're going to let him take his lumps for a year, and that might come at the cost of some of the other players on the team. Well, if you need anything done for your basement, Buckeye Basement Solutions has you covered. Get on BuckeyeBasementSolutions.com or give them a call, 614-956-4592. Coming up next, we're going to take a look at some Buckeyes who dominated in the NFL in Week 1, and we're also going to talk about a team that Cardale mentioned, South Florida, what they're doing down there right now, and what it says about the big picture of college football at large. Stay with us on The Script podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Breakfast might be the most important choice you make all day. That's because with Wendy's 2 for $3 breakfast, you can mix and match your very own favorite perfect pairing of our delicious morning favorite.
With this breakfast deal, the choice is all yours, not someone else's. Isn't that how breakfast should be? It's your breakfast after all, not Martha's. She can pick her own breakfast. This one is all on you.
No matter what you choose, from our sausage biscuit with that grilled breakfast sausage or the egg and cheese biscuit with freshly cracked grade A egg and melty American cheese on a fluffy buttermilk biscuit, a small size of perfectly seasoned potatoes, or a medium hot coffee to power you through the morning.
All you got to do is pick your favorite ideal morning pair. You really can't lose because you're the one calling the shots. The choice is all yours. Wake up to Wendy's 2 for $3 breakfast just the way you want.
Limited time only during breakfast hours. U.S. prices and participation may vary. No substitutions, not valid in the combo, single item at regular price.
Welcome back to The Script, a podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. If you're watching the video version, subscribe right now at the bottom of your screen on YouTube or follow us on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your pods at The Script OSU on all socials. All right, week 1 of the NFL is in the books, guys, and the Buckeyes really balled out on Sunday, especially the wide receivers. Let's start with Jaxon Smith-Njigba, 9 catches for 124 yards. And you could tell, Beanie, now that DK Metcalf is gone, he has Cooper Kupp with him, but it looks like he's the unquestioned focal point of that Seattle
offense. Oh, no doubt about it. And for good reason, because he's a dynamic wide receiver. He can take the top off of a defense, but he's really, really good at those intermediate routes. And, you know, one thing about the Ohio State receivers that were coached under Brian Hartline, their route running is so crisp and precise. Yeah. I mean, you can't help not but fall in love with the way that they run routes as a receiver or just as a football fan. I mean, you got to love it, but he's definitely their unquestioned number one guy.
I want to get your thoughts on Justin Fields, Cardale. So Justin Fields shredded the Steelers defense, which we expect to be a top 5 defense. Garrett Wilson had 7 catches for 95 and a score. And I've been so torn on Justin Fields since the moment he entered the league, because here in Columbus, people think Justin Fields belongs in Canton. Like, they won't hear any other case. And I've been on the fence of, like, he doesn't look like he's progressed as a thrower as much as you'd like, but he's also played for the Bears, which is the most traditionally has been the most poverty quarterback franchise in the NFL. He goes to the Steelers, not a great setup there, goes 3-1 and gets benched. Now he goes to the Jets, again, traditionally not the best quarterback franchise. So I kind of want your thoughts on the way Justin Fields' career arc has been and how much do we really know about him, even though he's been in the league several years.
You know, I don't think a team on the offensive side of the ball have really invested in Justin Fields as far as his success to continue to progress as a passer. I think this is the best passing situation he's been in his whole entire career, going back with two guys that he played with in college at a receiver and a tight end, and also having a good running game behind him. But he has shown in times where he had to pass the ball that he can do it, right? And he can do it at a high level. I mean, I think he threw for over 200 and rushed for 2 scores as well this past Sunday. And it got me thinking about not just him and Jaxon Smith-Njigba about taking their unders on their season total yards. I'm just like, if they continue to go like this, and this is only week 1, I can be in trouble. But, I think as you continue to build around him and feel valuable and say, I'm building my team around this guy, you're going to continue to see him progress, not just as a passer, but as a quarterback, period.
And nobody gave him any weapons, too. When you go back to Chicago, he had no weapons. They brought in DJ Moore late. And you saw the success and the chemistry that those 2 guys had.
He gave him a career year.
Yeah, I think a lot of those guys on that Chicago roster was pretty upset when he got let go and traded.
For sure. This is my frustration when I talked about Justin Fields and this goes back to the Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence conversation when they both got drafted 1 and 2 or whatever it was. You saw them both struggle their rookie years. What did Jacksonville go do? Jacksonville went and invested so many resources on the offensive side of the ball for Trevor Lawrence. In the next 2 years, Trevor Lawrence, I mean, that's how he got his huge contract.
Right.
What did the Bears do for Justin Fields? Nothing.
Zero.
Yeah.
Nothing until his contract year went out again. DJ Moore, on a trade, but it was like nothing. Being in position with draft picks and anything, it was nothing. And think about the receivers that came out in the draft and what the Bears were in position to do in that draft to build around Justin Fields. Nothing happened. And I don't know if they're saying screw the quarterback position in Chicago because pretty much you get maybe you get 4 to 5 good home games where you don't have to deal with the elements at the quarterback position in Chicago.
Yeah.
And you say, hey, let me focus on the run game and the defense because, we outside and we right here coming off this lake and all the lake effect weathers that we deal with. That's why I don't invest in quarterbacks. But they never really surrounded him with the resources. And you're looking at Caleb Williams right now and the lack of resources around him.
Well, so it's funny. But after he leaves, they brought in Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze. They draft Colston Loveland high. They bring in Ben Johnson, widely regarded as one of the best offensive. And it's kind of like you break up with your girl and all of a sudden she's in the gym 7 days a week, guys. It's like
Exactly.
Now she's got the new hair. She's got the glow up.
Right. You try to act like You try to act like it was the quarterback, Justin Fields, but then now you get rid of him. Now you want to invest in another one. Like you want to keep hitting reset every 4 years. That you're not going to get the production that you're looking for in the quarterback.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And another guy people were down on after his rookie year was Marvin Harrison Jr. He goes 5 for 71 with a touchdown, Beanie. Kyler Murray's number one guy. Trey McBride, the tight end, very good as well. But I think Marvin takes a big leap in year 2. I didn't love the way they used him in year 1, honestly. He didn't get a lot of high percentage routes. They were kind of asking him to do some difficult things. But I think he's due for a big year.
Yeah, no, he's definitely due for a big year. And I think now, the Arizona Cardinals are going to make him the focal point of that offense. Him and Kyler Murray building that chemistry throughout the offseason. And then, just the mere fact that anytime you got a top-tier receiver, you go to him. Regardless of the situation, regardless of what else you have on that offense, you go to them and you allow those guys to get comfortable and you try to force-feed them the ball so they can build their confidence and make plays. And I think right now that's going to be the case.
And then we have Emeka Egbuka, 4 for 67, 2 total touchdowns. Cardale, he basically called game. I mean, in week 1. Look, I mean, the setup is great because Mike Evans is older. Chris Godwin's going to be out for who knows how long this season. I mean, it's sitting there. Baker Mayfield is in love with Emeka.
Yep. I mean, this is a guy that I raved about when we talked about the draft show. And I said, him going down there with 2 veteran, potentially Hall of Fame type receivers, and then a quarterback they just invested in for the future. We saw what Baker did last year. And then especially when Godwin went out, Baker still was playing at an extremely high level. Now you adding a young Emeka Egbuka in that conversation, in that room, already with his qualities, already with his leadership abilities. No wonder why they're raving about him. You see what he did this past Sunday in his first outing and basically having a game-winning touchdown. He's a guy that you can plug and play and really not worry about too much of a learning curve because of his time at Ohio State and just honestly the characteristics that he just brings to a football player, period. So he'll be a playmaker for a long, long time in the league.
Yeah, big day for the Buckeyes on Sunday. All right, let's get back to the world of college football here. We were talking earlier in the show about Ohio University coming in and this idea that little brother comes to town. Now, one of the main reasons you play these games is because they hand you a check right before you get off the bus. All right, maybe they electric wire it at this point. But anyway, so they're going to get paid to be here. But we've seen guys in the world of college football, sometimes these teams take their check and they want to leave with a win as well. And I'm looking at South Florida, what they've done now. So they beat Boise State in week 1. They beat Florida in week 2. Next up, the Miami Hurricanes. And Beanie, if South Florida beats Miami, the floodgates open to 12-0. I mean, this is the last hurdle on that schedule.
Without question. And they will have a legitimate chance once they get into the college football playoff based on them beating Florida and beating Miami, if that was to be the case. This would be a crazy situation. This would be more intriguing than what we saw out of Boise State last year.
100%.
Because
100. Boise didn't have a big win like this.
No, not at all.
They just dominated their conference.
Exactly.
Yeah, no.
And then from the aspect of beating 2 of the top schools in the state, I mean, that would be insane. And when you look at South Florida and the way that they're built, and I don't know if you guys know out there, but Alex Galesh at one point in time was at Ohio State, a GA here with the defensive line. When you look at the way that they're built on both sides of the ball, they play hard, they play tough. They got a quarterback that looks very good and capable of making big plays in big situations. They could really get it done. You go back to last year, they should have beat Alabama in that tight night ball game.
Yeah, and Cardale, if you beat Boise State, Florida, Miami, and go 12-0. Now, I know the non-conference is going to be the conference is going to be a joke, but that's probably, if we're being honest, 3 quality wins. I bet that's better than either a Big Ten or an SEC school that's going to get in at some point this year.
100%. And then you look at this early, really 3 weeks of college football already because you count on week 0. they have the most impressive resume already.
Mhm.
They're the
Yeah,
only
right.
team in the country to beat 2 ranked top 25 teams in one. I mean, it's the most impressive win. I don't care how they got it done. Going into the swamp. Come on, man. Basically, in-state rival and beating Florida. Think about all the hype Florida got in coming into the season. I didn't never jump on this hype Florida train. Just to be clear, guys. Like, I was like,
They
hey,
were trash last year.
yeah, so all the return and stuff and DJ Lagway and all this other stuff, I still got to see this guy do it at a high level. And Florida, South Florida went in there and just, they got that chip on their shoulder. Hey, we should be in that orange and blue, and y'all should maybe be in this green and white. But now South Florida like, no, y'all wish y'all was in this green and white.
Yeah. South Florida 17-point underdogs against Miami this week. Still not getting a lot of respect from the line. So coming up next year on The Script, we're going to pick our parlay with our friends from Prime Sportsbook. First off, we had heartbreak last week. One of us is going to put our hands up and apologize on camera. But we're going to talk. Maybe South Florida sneaks in our parlay. We'll be right back with more show after this. Welcome back to The Script, a podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Dave Holmes, Cardale Jones, and Beanie Wells. Hit us up at The Script OSU on social. Time now to talk Prime Sportsbook. By the way, if you get on Prime Sportsbook, make sure you join up with our promo code SCRIPT. That'll get you a deposit match. And also, play their Prime Rewards game. Basically, what happens is every time you make a bet, you earn points. Those convert to free bonus bets on Prime Rewards. First, let's talk Heisman Trophy, guys. All right, John Mateer is your new Heisman Trophy favorite. He's plus 738, about 7-1. Beanie, you and I have been talking about John Mateer forever. Finally, Cardale.
Whatever. You guys are going to learn. Jump on the train as soon as I get it rolling, guys. John Mateer was our conversation, I think, one of our first episodes before the season even started.
Cardale bought this stock when it was a penny stock.
Come on, man. Now, I bought into Dogecoin a long time ago. What you guys doing, man? Come on.
Yeah.
From John Mateer to our parlays.
Yeah, you've been hot.
Come on, man.
You've been hot.
Let's go.
All right, so
He picked a couple of them for me too, man. So I appreciate that. He got me together, people.
All right, so here's what happened last week on our parlay. Disaster happened, all right? So Beanie had Oklahoma -5. It hit. Cardale had USC -28. It hit. I had the Patriots, Mike Vrabel, in his first game, can't beat the cross-country Vegas Raiders with Geno Smith's first start and a new OC. Yeah, so I cost us the parlay. So I hand up, I apologize, and I have to eat the full $20. These guys don't lose a thing because that's the way it works.
But what about the people at home that probably took our parlay?
Okay, you want me to Venmo? You want me to Venmo everyone?
Yeah, covered them as well.
I don't think you know how much I get paid here. All right, so let's talk about picks this week. Before we do our picks, let's hit the Browns real quick. +12 at the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens coming off heartache again at the hands of the Buffalo Bills. So, Beanie, what do you think? Browns +12 out Baltimore. It scares me.
Yeah, it scares me too. And especially after the way things went last week with the Cleveland Browns. They had the game signed, sealed, and delivered. And they could not get a 36-yard field goal. And I don't even want to say it came down to that field goal because there were plenty of other opportunities for the Browns offense to kick it in gear, and they didn't do it. And obviously, I hope you can tell I'm a Browns fan because I knew everything that transpired in this football game. I think in the second half, they shut them down to, I don't know, 60-some yards.
Yeah.
Come on, Joe Burrow, the high-octane quarterback, Jamar Chase, and you shut him down. Myles Garrett was wrecking havoc all game, and they couldn't get it done. I don't like this one.
This guy's a Buckeye, but man, the passion when he talks Browns,
Bro.
he cares about them Browns a lot.
Beanie, and I'm just curious. Have you ever played against the Browns?
Yes.
Go back and check his bank account. Go back and check the game line. He might have been point shaver, but who won?
Beanie had 3 fumbles that day.
I think the Browns won.
Oh, my God!
He's dirty.
I'm just wait a minute. Hey, hold on, man.
He looks like Tim Donahue carrying a football down
Yeah,
the field.
exactly. Yeah. Beanie is inside zone. Oh, I thought it was power. What are you doing? Wrong footwork.
Yeah.
I think one of those plays did happen where I forgot to play.
12 carries for -3 and 4 fumbles.
Exactly.
We're gonna check the tape. All right, guys. So let's talk about our parlay this week on Prime Sportsbook. Beanie, I'll let you go. Leg 1. What do you like this week on our parlay?
What I do like is the Cincinnati Bengals -3 versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. Obviously, we know the Bengals did go out and win that football game, but the offense did not light it up. I think they rebound in a big way.
Yeah, home favorite in the NFL. I learned the hard way on that. You'll learn too, my friend. All right, Cardale, what do you got?
I guess since I'm already 2-0, basically 4, but whatever. Just to put this out there, I did not inspire this pick from Beanie this week. So I'm not taking credit on that. But I have Texas A&M +7 at Notre Dame. Marcel Reed, quarterback for A&M. We saw him last year get in and show some sparks. And now with him going into the season, knowing that he's the guy, he's been playing really good these last 2 weeks. Notre Dame, which I think another thing I don't like about this for Notre Dame, and if you're really feeling spicy, you might want to sprinkle a little bit on that A&M money line, is tough loss to Miami. Played well, though. Played great. And then having a bye. So you had that loss, you had that bad taste in your mouth about that loss for 2 whole weeks. Now you got to come in and play at home, though. That helps, versus a young, angry, hungry A&M team. So, because A&M, who won last year at A&M? Notre Dame beat them.
Yeah, they
did.
Notre Dame beat them.
Notre Dame's only loss was Illinois.
Exactly. Notre Dame beat them last year at A&M at College Station. Now they guarantee they want a little revenge. So I got them +7. And like I said, if you're feeling spicy, money line.
Okay.
A&M.
For the record, last week, I was coin tossing between the Patriots or Illinois at Duke. I learned my lesson. We're going back to college. We're going to trust the kids. We're going to stay in college. I'm going to take South Carolina -4.5 at home against Vanderbilt. Both teams 2-0. Lenora Sellers, you're one of the top Heisman candidates. You got to beat Vanderbilt at home if you're going to win the Heisman Trophy. So I'm taking South Carolina. Is this Cardale approved? Do we stamp this?
I don't know, man.
No.
I got Diego Pavia over there at
I
Vanderbilt,
know, but
though.
he's really good. But I'm stamping this, and I got South Carolina as one of my sneaky teams coming out the SEC because of all of their tough games are at home. Well, Lenora Sellers, he's playing really good this early in the season. I would love to see my guy Stewart on the edge and these guys to kind of pick it up a little bit on defense. I think this would be the coming out party for these guys to really start that SEC push.
Dave, with this game, I'm going to just say you're going to owe me $40 if we don't hit with you.
I'm stamping Dave's pick more than yours, by the way. Just because of everything you said about the Browns and shutting down that high-octane Joe Burrow in the fourth quarter and everything you just said, and now you're picking them to cover a spread. I got them winning this game, but I don't know about those spreads.
The way this ends, the guy who makes the least money on this set's going to be footing a lot of bills this year. I don't like that. All right, so if you want to play along, get on Prime Sportsbook. Like I said, get on that rewards program. You can get bets converted to free bets that way. Must be 21 and over to play. Odds subject to change. If you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. That'll do it for us on this week of The Script, the podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. You know who's not going to like your pick, Cardale? Our friends from the Echoes, the Notre Dame podcast.
Well, no. I didn't say they were going to lose. I just said, tight game. But if you're feeling really spicy, like I am, I'm taking A&M money line.
We'll see you back here for another episode of The Script next week.